Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. I'm Josh Wurzbacher,
I'm Joe Shanahan.
and we're both sales managers for Yakima Chief Hops, and we'll be presenting on hop water today. Before we get started, I would just like to say a big thank you to Andrew and the CVP for letting us present today. We think what this organization is doing is outstanding, and we're real happy to participate. You could pull up our share screen, please. All right, again, we're talking about hop water today, in a beverage alternative utilizing your existing brewery equipment. Go ahead,
To introduce myself, like I said, I'm Joe Shanahan. I'm the regional sales manager for the Midwest. I am stationed in Toledo, Ohio right now. To give a little bit of background, I am a former brewer. I've worked at anywhere from small breweries to large breweries. One of the most recent was Lagunitas in Chicago. I have a bachelor's degree in history, and I've also went to brewing school down in Knoxville. And that's pretty much my background in a nutshell.
And I'm Josh Wurzbacher. I'm the regional sales manager for the Mid-Atlantic. I'm based in Philadelphia. I've been a part of the Philadelphia brewing scene for almost 10 years. And at any point, please feel free to ask questions, or if you want like our contact info at the end, you can reach out to us directly through email. To get us started, we always like to talk about our mission, vision, and values. Our mission is to connect family hop farms to the world's finest brewers. Our vision is to be the global supplier of choice. We focus on sustainability, innovation. We believe in responsibility to our neighbors and our asset to our communities, enriching the products, business, and lives of everyone we encounter. And our values are passion, respect, integrity, dedication, and excellence. And one that I really like to touch on is integrity. We believe that transparency and accountability is everything that we do. We are always willing to share all the information that we have at hand. We are the only 100% grower-owned company, hop grower. We have 15 grower owners and over 50 allied growers throughout the Pacific Northwest. We are in 3 states: Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. A majority of our growing is done in the Yakima Valley. And now the meat of the presentation, why hop water? Joe, you want to take this one?
Yep, you got it. So why hop water? Hop water can taste incredibly refreshing and is a new way to appreciate an amazing flavors hops have without alcohol or calories. Hop water is a great session extender. In between, every beer you have, you may want to mix in a hop water. Still keeps with the trend of hops, but at least as an NA alternative. It is very profitable, being that you have less ingredients. It's a quick turnaround time, so it's very profitable beverage to have in the tap room. It is unique to beer and brewery culture, as it still hones in on the craft aspect of it, with different variations of fruits, botanicals, hops, etc. It is great for the designated driver and those needing to limit or abstain from alcohol. And I would also say too, it's just a great tasting beverage. If you have a cocktail program, it's a great way to incorporate that into it as well.
Yeah, I'd like to add that, the unique to beer and brewing culture, this is a product that you guys can make without having to sacrifice your brewing principles, and still make something unique and truly craft.
Some industry trends that we have seen is like an uptick in dry January, sober October. There's a million of them. I feel like there's a new month added of no drinking. So with that being said, 66% of millennials say that they are making efforts to reduce their alcohol consumption. AB InBev anticipates a forecast of 20% of their sales by 2025 will be a focus in non-alcoholic beverages. And finally, Lagunitas Hoppy Refresher is a top 20 NA brand and has grown almost 65% since July of 2020. So you can see that the trends are upticking and climbing drastically. The goal with presenting on hop water is to allow brewers to make an NA alternative beverage without having to invest all of the capital into special equipment, special processes, all this stuff. It's pretty much allowing you to make an NA beverage safe, secure, and just, throw out an offering besides just beer. So there's several, we've kind of looked at a couple of different methods to make hop water. Most of them are the same. There's only a couple of differences between the two that we discovered. It all starts with collect the desired amount of water. Whether you're making a 5-barrel batch, a 10-barrel batch, a 1-barrel batch, doesn't really matter. Collect the amount of water you would like to yield. Always boil your water. The goal from that is mostly deaeration and sterilizing. This product is NA. It does need to be hyper sterile, free of microbes, etc. There's no alcohol crutch to lean on for protection in this. So yes, hyper sterile is definitely needed. The next thing you're going to want to do is lower the pH from your deaerated water. You're going to want to lower it to 4.6 or lower. You can use citric acid, lactic acid, a combo of both, but ultimately you want to drive the pH down. This makes a shelf-stable product and helps prevent microbe growth. To piggyback too from the boiling of water, I kind of recommend around 10 to 20 minutes or so. It doesn't need to be like an hour-long boil, but definitely something to kind of blow off some of that oxygen. Next, once you lower your pH, you'll want to add hops. I kind of think between 1 and 2 pounds in this stage would be appropriate to try. If you're concerned about, am I adding too much? Will there be a lot of IBU carryover? The best way to mitigate that would be to kind of maybe bring it down to 165, 170, still pasteurization temperature, but not hot enough to help bring out those IBUs and isomerize alpha acids. You'll want to probably even consider some lower alpha acid hop varieties as well for this stage. And basically at this point, you're going to want to steep it for, 15, 20 minutes, just something to kind of immerse the liquid into the hops. From there, you will basically knock it out to your bright tank, assuming you're not dry hopping it and assuming you're not adding anything extra. You can go right into your bright tank. From there, you are going to want to scrub this beverage to drive off as much oxygen as humanly possible. Again, oxygen is still the enemy of hops. It will cause a stale taste if too much is in it. So reducing DO pickup is key. Some methods you may want to consider is when you're knocking out to the bright tank is instead of hooking up an O2, oxygen scrubber, I guess, you're going to want to throw in CO2 instead. Again, just to emphasize the CO2 delivery and O2 drive off. There, after it's scrubbed, get it carved up to 2.9 to 3 volumes of CO2. I think the beverage does tend to do better as a hyper spritzy, effervescent beverage. I think it helps accentuate the hops more, and ultimately, it's kind of what we want as seltzer water. So,
and the reason we bring up the hot side additions first is just because, especially during the trial phase, just to be extra sanitary, adding the hops on the hot side will help mitigate any micro issues. But our next method will be dry hop focused.
Yep. So to kind of piggyback or to basically continue on from where we left off, the biggest difference is you're not necessarily adding hops in the kettle at all. Still boil your water, still sterilize it, drive off O2, etc. And in this case, knock out into a fermenter. From there, you're going to want to immediately scrub the tank. If you have the capability and you have the equipment, I highly recommend maybe a carb stone somewhere in the fermenter. I would keep it separate from your beer equipment just to, emphasize this is a non-alcoholic beverage. We don't want any sort of cross-contamination of alcoholic beers, etc. So potentially throw in a carb stone if you have the capability. Otherwise, definitely throw in your CO2 source at the bottom of the cone and just immediately start bubbling this. In terms of time frame to do that, I don't have a specific set of rules to try. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Basically, the goal is just to drive off O2. So scrub the tank. Once you feel that the tank is completely scrubbed, I would then you can go ahead and dry hop. Same thing, 1 to 2 pounds per barrel is a good starting point. It's kind of what you're going to go for, or what you're hoping to achieve. Do you want something a little bit more aromatic? Are you looking for something more subtle? Or it's what hops you're using, but just basically it's all an experiment. So I highly recommend messing around with it and seeing how it goes. So dry hop it. Then basically from there, you're going to want to park it, keep a blanket of CO2 on that at all times. I'd let it sit for at least 1 to 2 days, potentially 3 days. Let it settle out like you would a normal beer. And from there, you'll continue to start dropping trub. If you have filtration equipment, I think it would be a great move to utilize. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. You can transfer off a standpipe. Go into your bright tank, same thing, get it carbonated up, and then prepare to package in whatever format you desire.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on a few other things, but we think this method here is pretty sound, and really it's like sanitation, deaeration, bubble CO2 when you're knocking out your knockout line. If you have a C box available, checking your DO on the water before dry hopping is a great idea. Dry hopping with dry yeast to help keep the hops in suspension can help achieve better infusion, but also if you have the ability to circulate hops in your tank, and you're confident that you can do it in the most sanitary way possible, this can help speed up the process and could potentially have a product ready for you within 24 hours, meaning, you're not tying up tanks and you're able to get it on draft fairly quickly.
And I failed to mention, but also when you're knocking out your water into tank, I think between 66 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit is a good appropriate temp. You don't want it too cold for the hops to just settle out too quick. You don't want it too hot either to kind of like mess around with or changing the chemical composition. But I think, average fermentation temps for this beverage is a good starting point as well to dry hop on.
And for me, this is the fun part. Now's the opportunity to be creative. You can use a different combination of hops that maybe you've never used before because your overhead is a lot lower and you're using a lot less raw materials. So maybe you can take a few more chances and run some different trials, or you can go with classic combinations like Citra Mosaic, or maybe try something different like Sabro and HBC 472, which is a lot of oak and vanilla. Equinaut and Simcoe, I think, is a underutilized combination that I really love. Or you can go old school and do your C hops, Centennial, Columbus, Cascade. And besides hop water doesn't necessarily just need to be hops and water. You can play around with all the different kinds of ingredients, fruits, extracts, juices, purees, botanicals, caffeine-free matcha tea powder, and some ways you could use that while still being sterile to add it in the whirlpool or make a hot sterile tea and then inject it in later. But there is some considerations if you're trying to make a low-calorie product. Adding fruit purees, there's also, adding extra sugar can increase your potential for micro issues. So be extra careful there.
It also would increase your calorie content. So if you're worried about making a zero or a calorie-free, just sessionable beverage, you may not want to go that route. You may want to consider extracts that way as well. Having used them, they can be great. Some places also use stevia or some sort of sweetener. It kind of like rounds out the beverage a little bit more, so it's not so sharp and bitey. So there's really numerous ways to make this beverage your own. There's no right or wrong way in terms of combinations to throw at it. The key is just keeping things sterile and keeping everything microbe free, but it's a fun beverage to play with. I mean, I can't emphasize the creativity aspect enough on that.
Especially for trialing stuff. I think this is a great way to do it. CBD is also another option. Yakima Chief has now partnered with a company Source based out of Seattle, where we now grow our own hemp, and we extracted CBD using the same supercritical CO2 extraction process that we use for our CO2 extracts. and they are an emulsion company, and they created this wonderful tasting CBD product that is you're allowed to use it in any non-alcoholic beverage. It's a different story with alcoholic beverages because then you fall under TTB compliance. But for NA beverages, this is a great alternative and still a great way to make some good profits at the brewery. And you can reach out to us directly if you guys would like to try any samples of this.
And then this is a kind of a quote from John Walker at Athletic Brewing. Not only do they do the NA beverage, they're also launching, I believe it's called Day Pack, which is a hoppy seltzer. And John summed it up for us great when we had spoke with him just about doing this presentation. So I'll read you the quote. Basically, he says, venturing into the realm of seltzers and hop water is humbling to say the least. In addition to the added complexities and sensitivities you encounter when making a tasty, sparkling drink, there is an entire world of regulatory and food safety that needs to be mastered, equal to, if not more important than, recipe formulation and learning, understanding and practicing a robust food safety and regulatory plan to ensure you are in compliance in the event of an audit, and also that your non-alcoholic beverage is in fact food safe. The ethanol crutch doesn't exist in the realm, and food safety is far more complex and worrisome than typical brewing quality checks. This isn't to scare anyone from trying it. It just means keep it on the back of your head, or keep it on the back of your mind at all times when making this beverage, that you are entering a completely different world in terms of beverages. Alcohol is not there to help mitigate microbe growth. You have nothing really stopping it. So keeping very tight and clean brewing practices is key and crucial to this. So,
yeah, one thing we haven't talked about yet is FDA compliance. Once you start making a food safe, non-alcoholic product, you now fall under FDA guidelines. So making sure that you keep excellent logs, ensure that you have the most sanitary brewing practices, just in case of an audit, however unlikely that might be. Especially if you're thinking in terms of distribution. If you want to distribute a product like this, you need to ensure that it passes all micro tests. It is an absolutely food safe product. That's the main reason behind acidification. Besides balancing flavor, acidification really helps in maintaining food safe product.
Absolutely. It's nothing to panic on. It just means there's extra measures to consider. Some other things you may want to do is, let's say you are going into distro with this, you may want to consider getting this sent off for testing from a third-party lab. If you do not have lab and testing equipment in-house, you will want to keep a very tight SOP and make sure it is in-house ready to go, so that should there be an audit, you have something to show them. If you're fixing to just keep this stuff in-house, keep it on draft, that's not to say these things should be ignored or passed off. You should still keep these notes and considerations, but just know that distro is a completely different animal with it.
Yeah, and if you take away anything from this presentation, the two things there should be acidification and hypersterility. We would recommend using separate hose, separate gaskets, separate pump. You should caustic clean, acid clean, autoclave, and then sterilize your tank. I mean, do everything in your power to make sure that you are as hypersanitary as possible.
Absolutely. Don't use your sour tank to try hot water. Make sure this is a hyper clean tank.
Non-alcoholic beverages are on the rise globally now more than ever, especially post-COVID. I know I can attest to this. I've been finding myself looking for different choices when I go out to drink with friends. Maybe I'm not looking to have too many beers. I think this is a great tool for any brewer to have in their arsenal. It's easy to produce. I mean, we think that the process can be fairly straightforward and quick. It doesn't need to take a lot of your time or tie up your equipment for very long. Endless combinations. I mean, especially when you start getting into the world of mixing juices and extracts, botanicals with hops. I mean, the options are unlimited. But the FDA compliance is very, very important. And there are certain things that you can do to, maintain excellent logs, make sure you write everything down. Sterile filtration is an option. I don't know, in my experience, we've used 1 micron filter traps And then we'd follow it up with PCR testing. I mean, all these things are just great tools to make sure you stay compliant. And we're definitely going to have some time for questions. I just want to give everybody a chance to see our emails. Please feel free to reach out to us directly if you have any more questions after this presentation. If you would like to try some CBD samples, please reach out to yakimachiefhemp.com. And now we will open it up to questions.
Don't be shy.
Any questions at all? It doesn't even have to be hop. So it doesn't have to be seltzer based. We can talk about anything.
If nothing right now, I mean, I guess Josh and I can definitely rattle off more information on this beverage as we see fit. As we've said, there's a lot of trends upward with this beverage. The non-alcoholic beer can be another step, and a lot of research goes into that, where breweries at smaller scales, potentially, as 10, 5, 7 barrel brew houses don't necessarily have that capability. This is a great way to offer that option with sparkling water and hops. Another huge benefit is, these are you should have all these ingredients in house without having to special order anything. If you're fixing to burn through some hops you weren't really sure about, this might be a great way to play with them. Especially some of those obscure varieties, the HBCs, or like, hey, I haven't tried Sabro, but I don't know that I want to invest all the money in yeast propagation, malt, etc. This could be a great way to kind of make a sparkling beverage to give you an idea of what that might do to your beer. So that's kind of where I think that the trend, or why we want to see hop water succeed so much, is not just the health benefit, I guess, of low calorie, but also just the experimentation aspect of it for brewers to see what these new hop varieties are doing in sparkling water, that hope will translate into a beer, where you kind of get a better idea of how to utilize it.
Yeah, and I would say historically it used to be that breweries could have their core brands that would pay the bills, and then they got to fund their seasonals. But nowadays, having a diversified brewing portfolio is the business model. No longer can people rely on their core brand. So if you're looking for some dynamic options, so hoppy seltzer, non-alcoholic beer, I mean, all these are great tools. We really like the hop seltzer just because, I love hops, I love IPAs, but I don't always like drinking beers. But with these, I can have 2 or 3 of these at dinner, and I don't have to worry about imbibing or taking on any extra calories.
And for me too, there's something that just tastes very crafted and special about a hop water or a beverage that has botanicals or fruits. It feels crafted. It feels artisanal. It doesn't feel like I'm drinking, syrups. No offense to large soda factories like root beer and cola and all that stuff, but they don't feel as crafted. They feel more manufactured. Where this feels like it's coming from a brewer who, put his heart into it, I guess, a little bit more. So that's kind of a neat thing as well. I go back to my time, but a shameless plug even to like Lagunitas. I mean, that beverage has really blew up since they put it online. And it's really fascinating, honestly, for such a simple thing. So I think I would like to see more breweries give it a try and play around with it and see what they like. So, and see how their customer base likes it too. It's like I said, it's not a large investment to make this beverage. So it may be a massive uptick for sales in some way.
I would also say that in terms of recipe development, if you're doing just a straight hop water, maybe you don't want too many IBU pickups, so you won't put too many hops in the kettle, and mostly it'll just be in the dry hop. But if you're going to add back fruit juices or any kind of sweetener, having some bitterness out of the kettle can help bring some more balance. The acidity will bring balance. You will get a color impact. In my experience, it is just a tinge of green. But in my opinion, I think that makes it have a little bit more character visually in the pint.
I totally agree with that. I absolutely agree.
I'm still trying to figure out a good method for brewers to be able to get some head retention out of their water without adding anything too crazy.
On the docket.
I don't know what that is yet.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the goal of this presentation really was to let brewers know that this is a beverage option, and with existing equipment you have in your brewery, you have a kettle that can heat water. You should have proper chemicals to keep things clean, sterile, etc. You have hops in house. You have good drinking water. You should have some sort of acidity to lower pH. Really, you have a lot of these things at your disposal. That why not give this a try? Sure, there's extra measures and extra concerns, but it should not. They should not outweigh your ability to give it a try. So. And you might find, I mean, there is several different ways to skin a cat. But I think that you guys will absolutely find a safe, sterile process to make this beverage work.
Yeah. And, Joe and I were talking briefly before this presentation about preservatives too. That's not something I have a ton of experience in, but potassium sorbate is an option for preserving quality. Again, I would reach out to your rep and try to get the best information possible before going down that road. But there are a ton of options to mitigate the risk of a food safe product. And again, if you take anything away from this presentation, that hop seltzer needs to be food safe. So hyper sterility, good practices, good record. Joe, you got anything else?
I mean, that's probably the biggest plug for this entire beverage. I mean, I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope should any questions come up and you would like to ask them privately, by all means, shoot us an email after or whenever a question comes to mind. We're happy to answer it to the best of our knowledge. We would be happy to, take on phone calls or whatever you guys need to talk through scenarios, talk through, process questions. Josh and I are both former brewers, so we have kind of a good grasp for how we might consider doing it. It's just nice to kind of bounce ideas off. So, please utilize us as sources for anything in the future. And if not hop water, hop questions. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. One more time, I'd like to thank Andrew and the CVP for letting us present today. I think the Craft Beer Professionals group is an excellent group, doing a lot of great things for the community. And that's what we believe in, rising tide floats all ships. So thank you, Andrew, for letting us join you guys today. And thank you very much.